I had a friend who would always say that.
Thank you.
So, should go back to betting on what time the meeting's in. Betting on what time the meeting's in. I think that the public meeting will go pretty quickly. I'd say out of here by 10 to 9. Yeah. But close could be long.
Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. The date's May 23rd, 2018. The time is 7:30. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by a posting on the bulletin board in Village Hall, by mail to the Ridgewood News, the Record, and by submission to all persons entitled. The same is provided by law of a schedule including the date and time of this meeting. Roll call.
Councilman Hache?
Here.
Councilman Seaton?
Here.
Councilman Voigt?
Here.
Councilwoman Walsh?
Here.
Mayor Knudsen?
Here. Please rise to the flag salute.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to have a moment of silence for all of our men and women serving our nation, our first responders, and for our teacher, Paramus teacher, and 10-year-old that lost their lives last week in a tragic bus accident, and for all those that are suffering through this tragedy. Thank you. Before we go to public comment, we're going to invite Andrea Volter and Marianne Kranz up to say a few words. We're welcoming them. They are the just opened Oliver R. Twist Olive Oil Company. Come on up to the microphone, introduce yourselves, and tell us all about your business. You come on right here and, yep, right to that microphone, and so welcome.
Just make sure the button is pushed and the green light is on.
There's a microphone.
Oh, there's a microphone.
It's on the
Andrea, there's a
microphone.
microphone right there. Make sure
Right
there's a
here.
green button turned on.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
now speak into the microphone, introduce yourselves, tell us all about Oliver
right.
R. Twist and where you're located, your website, what you're selling, and about your tasting room especially. Okay.
Okay. I'm Andrea Volter, and this is Marianne Krantz. We just opened up Olive R. Twist Olive Oil Company at 34 Willsey Square on the west side. And we're an olive oil tasting room, and we have approximately about 64 different varieties of olive oil and balsamic vinegars. And our balsamic vinegars are from Modena, Italy. They're all barrel aged. We have them white vinegars and also dark vinegars. And then our olive oils are from around the world. Right now we have the Northern Hemisphere Crush, which was crushed in November of this past year. And that's, we have oils from Italy, Portugal, Spain, and California. And then we also have about 30 or so different olive oils that are infused with flavors. So all natural, nothing added except for whatever it's infused with. So, or fused. And the same for the vinegars. The vinegars, they start with a traditional, and then they're infused with flavors, all natural, barrel aged, and just wonderful. So
Great, website?
we have a website, which is right now just a landing page.
Okay.
But we will be selling, online very shortly. So,
And what's your domain name? The name of your
oh,
website?
it's Oliver Twist, oliveoilcompany.com.
Okay, and hours of operation? What hours are you open? So when can people
we're
come?
open Tuesday through Sunday, and Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday from 11 to 6, Thursday from 12 to 7, and Saturday we're open 10 to 6 and 10 to 2 on Sunday.
Okay, great. So thank you, welcome, good luck, and everybody just remember Oliver Twist, 34 Wilsey Square, and visit and go to that tasting room. We'll be there.
Yes, and we're having our grand
yes.
opening.
Oh, yes.
And the mayor will hopefully be there that day, that morning. It's going to be Saturday, June 2nd at 10 a.m. And we hope everyone can come to that, because we're going to have lots of goodies available. We're going to have handouts. We're going to have tastings. And that's what's really special about our place, is that it is truly a tasting room, so you can taste anything you want before you actually decide to purchase it, which is really nice. It's a really nice way to,
Right.
check everything out beforehand. So.
And it's my sister's birthday, so I'll pick up a birthday gift when we're there.
Perfect.
Hey, thank you.
Once you taste it, you never go back.
Okay, great, thank you and good luck. Thank you. And with that, we'll go to public comment. As usual, 3 minutes per person for a total of 40 minutes. Name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Cynthia Hallaby, 374 Evergreen Place. I speak to you as president of the Conservancy for Ridgewood Public Lands.
Cynthia, I'm sorry, could you just speak into the microphone so we can...
Is that
hear you?
better?
Yeah, and just
Good.
actually,
Okay,
it looks like it actually looks like it's
It's
turned...
crooked.
Yes, it was
How about
crooked.
that?
Good.
Is that better?
Perfect. That's
Okay.
much better.
So, 374 Evergreen Place, Cynthia Hallaby, president of the Conservancy for Ridgewood Public Lands and a resident for 49 years. It came to my attention at Candidates Night that the council must still be planning the destruction of the train station plaza. Both the mayor and the deputy mayor spoke of increasing parking spaces over there. I have been paying careful attention to all council agendas since last July 2017, and this topic has never come up. To my knowledge, there has never been a single public hearing on this, and I think it is very wrong not to bring the public up to date with these very drastic plans that I gather that you have. Am I correct in saying there has been no public hearing?
This is public comment.
Maybe I'll get an answer later. The original plan was to eliminate the island by approximately 80%, cutting the 38-foot wide strip to 9 feet. I further see that the plan calls for cutting down 7 trees. Only one needs to be removed because of its bad condition. The remaining ones are healthy, mature trees, most of them just in need of pruning. This green and inviting area provides a pleasant vista to those using the train station. In good weather, people enjoy the area, and during the summer season of the farmers' market, it becomes a delightful pocket park, which attracts residents and visitors alike. I'm aware that the age-friendly group, Sheila Brogan and Beth Abbott, cannot be here this evening. I know that they have been in contact with you because they would like to put benches there. When they expressed their concern about the removal of much of the space, the mayor's response was the island would be reduced, not eliminated, allowing for ample sidewalk and greenery. How is it possible to state that when you've got a 9-foot strip with a 4-foot ADA-compliant walkway in it, leaving you 5 feet? That's not ample space for greenery. That is absolutely not true. Another question, can someone tell me, and I know I'm not allowed to ask questions, but I have this question, is this area listed in the Ridgewood Recreation Open Space Inventory? I'd like an answer to that. We must also be conscious of water conservation. The replacement of grass with tarmac and cement will remove yet another porous area which provides precious water to our aquifers. What a shame, what a dreadful legacy you will be leaving by asphalting over this area. During the recent campaign,
Cynthia, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, you interrupted me right in the beginning. During the recent campaign, preserving the beauty of our village was a popular refrain.
Thank you, Cynthia, I'm sorry.
This does exactly the opposite.
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
Hi, Denise Lima, 319 East Glen Ave. A few thank yous, and then I have a few follow-ups I'd like to just mention. So, really great news about Isabella and the award that we received from her, all the hard work she's done. Just like to maybe remind everybody if we can carry that forward, and we had some suggestions of naming the Zabriskie Revolution Park. I think we were bantering some names back and forth, which I kind of liked, but now with this award, wondering if we can maybe look at naming it after her again. I want to thank Heather for being very flexible with some new approaches in the League of Women Voters in our elections. We tried to think a little bit out of the box, do things a little bit earlier, getting some things on our website about the profiles of the candidates. I think we were in Heather's office once a week trying to get voter turnout. I think we still need to continue to improve and work on that, and not wait for the last minute, but I did want to say thank you to Heather for that. And I don't know about everybody else, but that storm the other day came in and out like a banshee, and again, I know Heather and the council and the team were working to make sure the village was in good shape. Also, I've seen a lot of police activity on East Glen Ave, trying to control and improve the speeding and improving safety. I've seen tickets, going out. It's a very fast road. Once they hit Maple Ave and that light turns green, it's, nonstop to Route 17 in the morning, and it's really, really fast. And it's acting like a road, right, where we're going very fast, but it's acting like a street where there's pedestrian and, children and school and hospitals and the delis, and you can't have both. And so that presence is really very helpful. There's three things on prior meetings I just wanted to express my concern about, and I'm not sure where the Steel Wheels Valet recommendation is downtown, but I sat for an hour at that corner underneath the bridge, watching the traffic, watching the delayed lights, watching people run and commuters during that time. I can't imagine valet and taxi drivers and double parking and valet happening in that corner. So I'm not sure where that's at, but I think we need to relook at that. I'm also just concerned about the 31K we're spending on Tyco. I don't think we bid that out. Tyco's been working for us for 10 years. Great with the bears. I get it. They're here. But I can tell you when there's lost dogs, we have
Thank you,
no
Denise.
service level
That was
pledge from
the
them.
beeper. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Hi.
Good evening.
Lori Howard, 218 North Maple. I'm here about the parking at the train station, but with a very different viewpoint and much more comprehensive, if you will. I don't know what you're planning exactly, but I've heard things. I just am here to make a statement. I'm asking the council to refrain from replacing or reducing the train station walkway at Garber-Wilsey Square. To squeeze 22-plus commuter parking spots for compact cars is really unnecessary at this time, fiscally foolish, and does not serve any increased commuter parking demand. Today, many commuters partially remote, and many residents order online. Things are changing. Do you not realize that residents and visitors value the village for much more than just parking spaces? Open space such as this square matters. This plan to fiddle with the train station commuter lot feels rather like a knee-jerk solution to the parking problems, and there are many other things to consider. Please don't spend our taxpayer dollars on this unnecessary capital expense at this time, because once done, there's no turning back. About 8 years ago, when the train station was refurbished with $40 million, the village went to great lengths to protect the island pathway, as it certainly presented itself as a natural greenway, open space to be preserved in a sea of parking macadam. And as any planner knows, any transportation hub generally seeks such open space for the safety of pedestrians and the drivers within a very congested parking lot. Also for stormwater management, and also just for the ambience and the historical significance as a past public gathering place. It is about time we view transportation, public open space, and pedestrian usage holistically and plan accordingly. So consider, pedestrians are commuters. Many people walk to the train station from the west side and are running to the train on this very path, as one is free from the long line of hectic drop-offs. Children on the east side of town walk here every day to get to GW. Apartment dwellers are here with dogs. Shoppers are also strolling there. I'm there 6 days a week, twice a day, so I see a lot. Commuters use the walkway to access their cars without worrying to be hit by the many drop-offs and parking commuters. Consider safety. During peak pickup and drop-off times, the parking lot is hardly a safe place to walk, especially now that Uber drivers, unfamiliar with the area, consistently clog the station at peak hours. Backing out from additional parking spaces to exit will congest and back up the entranceway in both directions, causing traffic issues for Franklin and Godwin. Backup exodus is difficult now, and 22 more cars is going to make it worse. Emergency vehicles, too, need room here at the station. That open space may very well be utilized in the future for a transit emergency. Consider development. This council has opted to have 3 major downtown developments underway. With such density of pedestrians and cars, we need to keep the little open space we have so that the village retains some vestige of its popularity as a town you may want to spend time in. And then consider the flooding. Ever since the large trees were eliminated, the parking lot drainage is poor at best. It floods especially at the entranceway.
I'm sorry, Lori.
All right?
Thank you.
And consider the farmer's market.
Okay, thank you.
You've already had to make good use of a greenway. Let it be.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, moving on.
The first item we have is a discussion on the redevelopment plan. As you recall, the village council had a request to the planning board to have a redevelopment plan prepared for the Hudson Street parking lot area, which is block 3809, lots 12 and 13. It was given to the planning board, and my understanding is that the planning board recommended to the village council for adoption. I know that both Councilman Voigt and Mayor Newton were at that meeting, and so you know more than I do. Actually, I have a document, but you were there, so perhaps you could fill in some of the information.
Sure. So our village planner, Bridget Bogart, went over the plan with the planning board. There were a number of questions. There were some concerns on the part of some planning board members that this was the equivalent of their stamp of approval for a garage, and we had to certainly allay those concerns because this is not their approval of a garage, it's their approval of a redevelopment zone plan. Ultimately, going through all of the discussion, there was a thorough explanation by Ms. Bogart about the redevelopment plan, about the lots, about how they could be used. I think Councilman Voigt asked a question as to whether or not high-density multifamily housing could be built there, and the answer was no, because it's our property, so we have control over it, so it's not like it's in somebody else's hands, and the lot is right now going to be a garage, which is already in our plan, and this plan reflects that. So ultimately, it was approved by a majority vote, and the ordinance reflects that redevelopment plan. Do you have anything to add, Jeff?
No, I don't. That's fine.
Any questions? No? Okay.
So at this time, we'll move forward to a special public meeting for the introduction of the ordinance for the redevelopment plan.
So do you have a motion to suspend?
So move.
Second.
Ashe,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Voigt,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes. So we're going to call this meeting to order, special public meeting, May 23rd, 2018. It's 7:50. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by posting on the bulletin board in Village Hall, by mail to the Ridgewood News, the Record, and by submission to all persons entitled to same, as provided by law of a schedule, including the date and time of this meeting. Roll call.
Councilman Ashe,
Here.
Councilman Eden,
Here.
Councilman Voigt,
Here.
Councilwoman Walsh,
Here.
Mayor Knutson.
Here. I move the first reading of ordinance 3649.
Second.
Ashe,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Voigt,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes, so ordered. Will the clerk please read ordinance 3649 by title?
An ordinance adopting the Hudson Street redevelopment plan.
I move that ordinance 3649 be adopted on first reading and that June 13th, 2018 be fixed as a date for the hearing thereon.
Second.
Ashe,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Voigt,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes. It's a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Ashe,
Yes.
Eden,
Yep. Yes.
Voigt,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes, and with that, we're back to discussion. Ridgewood Water.
Okay, the first item is Ridgewood Water, awarding of professional services. This is an extension of services for Howard Woods, who's the expert who the village hired for the water rate hearings. This is for an additional $9,000 since the water rate hearings are continuing, as we know, and Mr. Woods' support and expert knowledge is critical in this matter.
Any comments or discussion?
What is the 9,000 for? Is it just for his services to
For
be
his
at the meeting? or-
appearance, he's going to be reviewing the expert's report from the plaintiffs, and so his preparation for that for June 25th.
Okay,
So
yeah, all right, thank you.
Just to the total thus far, do we have?
I don't have it, I can get that for you.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful
Sure.
at this point. Thank you.
Okay, one moment.
Okay. Nothing, no one else, right? So moving on.
Okay, the next item is a timeline for the Hudson Street parking garage. I just wanted to lay out for the public as well as for the council what each step is going to be along the way. Tonight, we discussed the redevelopment plan. We also introduced the ordinance to adopt the redevelopment plan. On June 5th, at the planning board meeting, the Hudson Street parking garage project will have a courtesy review by the planning board. On June 11th, at 7 p.m. here in the courtroom, we will be having an open house similar to the open house that was held with the previous garage, where there will be various tables. There will be Epic Management, Tim Haas Architects, Mr. Rooney, the Parking and Utility Director and CFO, Mr. Rudisauser, the Village Engineer. It's not an official council meeting. It's really an opportunity for the public to come in, take a look at the boards, take a look at the materials close up, to ask questions of the developers, of the architects. There will be council members here. They'll be filtering in and out during the time frame. So it starts at 7 p.m. and it's envisioned to run for approximately an hour to an hour and a half, till about 8 or 8:30. So we welcome everyone to come in, ask your questions, take a look at the drawings more closely, and give some input as well. So we look forward to that. On June 13th, at the regular public council meeting, there will be a public hearing in consideration for adoption of the redevelopment plan, which was introduced tonight, the ordinance. On June 14th, there will be a courtesy review at the Historic Preservation Commission. On July 1st, at our reorganization meeting, the Village Council will introduce the bond ordinance for the construction of the Hudson Street parking garage. On July 18th, which is the regular public meeting in July, There'll be a public hearing and consideration for adoption of the bond ordinance for the Hudson Street parking garage. And then on August 8th, which is the public meeting in August, there will be consideration of the resolution for the award of contract to Epic Management for the Hudson Street parking garage project.
Any questions from anyone on this? Okay, good, great, very good.
Okay, the next items are under budget. As we usually do each year, we're looking to do estimated tax bills. These are mailed no later than June 30th, and this way we're short of the third quarter tax payment due date, and we won't have to extend the due date due to delays because the county at times doesn't certify the rate, and so therefore we do the estimated rate. So the total estimated levy is $150,451,749.56. This includes municipal levy, the municipal open space, the county levy, the library, the school levy, and so that's what it comes to. So the estimated tax rate is 2.590 per $100 of assessed value. So that's the total tax rate estimated. Again, it's not set in stone until the county does so, but this way we'll get out the estimated tax bills. We've done this for many years. It allows us to collect the money which we then need to pay on to the county and to the schools.
Questions, anyone? Okay.
Okay, the next item is the Somerset County Cooperative Pricing Agreement. As you know, we have joined various cooperative purchasing co-ops, and this is another one. Again, it's a Somerset County Cooperative Pricing System. So this is for us to join that. It will allow our fleet services a quick way to be able to obtain various items that they need, whether they be tools or parts, and we don't have to go out to bid. So it's going to be beneficial and more efficient for our fleet services division.
Questions, anyone? Nope.
Okay. The next one is state contract purchase for the police department for carpeting. We did discuss this last month, and it was going to be on the agenda for May 9th. Unfortunately, the state contract number was incorrect, and so we've looked into it further. We found the right state contract number, so we're ready to proceed with this for our June 13th public meeting. So we will award it at that time.
Any more questions? Nope.
Okay, we're moving on to policy. This is interesting because Olive Twist was just here. They are looking for an encroachment agreement for gooseneck lights on the store facade. It'll protrude over the sidewalk very minimally, as many other storefronts do. And they have applied to the Historic Preservation Commission for this, and so the village engineer has prepared a resolution to authorize the execution of the encroachment into the right-of-way.
Okay. Any questions on that?
Okay. The next is Paint the Town Purple and Orange ribbons. So Paint the Town Purple is to bring awareness of the American Cancer Society and also the Relay for Life. And this is done through Ridgewood High School Project Interact. June 2nd from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. They'll be giving out flyers and collecting donations throughout the Central Business District. And they'll be they'd like to tie purple ribbons on the 4 large trees that face Ridgewood Avenue by Memorial Park at Van Ness Square. In addition, for Gun Violence Awareness Month during the month of June, that group would like to be tying orange ribbons around trees in the Central Business District. They'll be doing it throughout the business district, and they will also be responsible for removing them at the end of June. And they were very conscientious in saying that they would certainly remove them, so we won't be seeing orange ribbons into July. There is going to be a public forum also, which I know Councilman Seaton is going to talk about later in the council reports, so that'll also be held on June 2nd, and I'll let him speak more to that later. So this is just really to make the council aware and also the public, that there will be some purple ribbons and some orange ribbons on the trees in the Central Business District during the month of June.
Any questions, comments? I just have to say, Project Interact is amazing, and Nancy Riley is amazing as their teacher, I guess their guidance. She's amazing. Great group of kids. Okay.
Okay, the next item is the A-frame sign ordinance. As you know, this was signed and adopted in December of 2016 to allow stores to put out A-frame signs. They had to be a certain size, they had to be a certain width, they couldn't block the sidewalk. There's a thought to expand this A-frame sign ordinance to be a display area. And in this display area, there could either be A-frame signs or a display such as something like a sheep, which we've had in the past, or a mannequin bust, or some other type of display. And I know Mayor Knutson would like to speak to this further.
Yeah, so Councilman Hache and I had worked with Bridget Bogart on a couple of initiatives for some better signage and opportunities for businesses to promote themselves. And looking at the A-frame sign and understanding that some of our businesses have received violations for different displays, we kind of decided to think a little bit outside of the box and recognizing that the A-frame sign takes up 5 square feet of real estate on the ground. What if we took that 5 square feet and allocated that 5 square feet in any configuration that a store owner wanted to utilize, as long as they got the appropriate permit? So if somebody wanted to run a linear 5 square feet by length, they could put a bicycle, they could put a sheep if they changed that dimension ever so slightly, and that would allow, or they could put a mannequin or a dress form, which I think was another violation that was issued, a dress form with product, with clothing on it, and that would allow a little bit more flexibility and not constrain anyone just to that A-frame sign. So I don't know if you had any, I think you would discuss this possibly at the forum and how well it was received, or if you wanted to add to that.
Yes, we did. In the discussion at the second CBD Advisory Committee Business Forum was really a continuation of the conversation that we had in the first one in January. And some of the concerns from the business owners was that there was just not enough flexibility in terms of having kind of their own expression of how they would want to, market their business. It almost, I think it was, someone made the comparison to sort of like an outdoor mall, so everything kind of looks the same, and it just doesn't allow for enough individuality for the businesses to be able to market themselves. When we brought up the issue of kind of just thinking of the A-frame as having that piece of real estate on the sidewalk, it was well received, as long as I think everyone's saying, well, some of the concerns that they had with the A-frame was that they were blowing away, they were kind of laying flat. That they just want to make sure that from an enforcement standpoint, that we have kind of, specify what are the things that, if it's not an A-frame and it's something else, that maybe we go a little beyond just the dimensions in terms of what you can use to secure it, prevent it from falling down and blowing away and so on. So, but everyone was very, very open to the idea and thought that it would be great to kind of bring a little bit of life into the appearance of the downtown.
So before we did any work on this with Bridget or Matt having to look at it, we just figured let's take it to everybody, have a conversation first, and then decide how we proceed. And it just gives businesses the opportunity to promote themselves in a more individualized way. So any thoughts on this? No? Okay.
Everything has to be approved by permit, so if somebody wanted to do something that was really out there, they probably couldn't get a permit for it.
Yeah, so I mean, like one shop had a bicycle, and I think the bicycle is chained to the building, so it's secured. But right now, that would be a violation. That business would get a summons, but they could actually put in their basket kind of product and decorate the bicycle and say, here we are. Another one, we all are familiar with Betsy the sheep, and so Betsy the sheep would be able to come back outside and be happy.
Betsy.
So if it's okay with everyone, then we're going to ask Bridget to kind of work on this. I don't know if she has to start with the A-frame sign, or if this gets modified, or if we have to have something else, or if it's just this consolidated into one freestanding display, if that works better. So, all right, everybody will move forward. Okay, great.
So we'll bring it back in July, because we can't introduce this ordinance to July anyway.
Right.
Because of reorg. So we'll wait for then and bring it back to the work session in July.
Okay, great.
Okay. The next item is regarding the video and, what is it called? And illuminated display signs in and near the storefronts in the central business district. As you recall, we suspended the enforcement on these types of signs in the central business district. We did this about this time last year, and it went to the end of the year, and then we extended again until June 30th. So June 30th is coming up. So at this point, we need to make a decision as to whether or not we want to extend it again. We're waiting for the planning board to come back with their recommendation as to how they want to handle these signs. We still haven't gotten it from them. I don't know how soon we can expect it, but I don't know if you want to extend this till, October 31st, if you want to go all the way to December. This way we definitely would have it. We'll need 2 months, obviously, to adopt this ordinance, so perhaps December is the best idea, just so that we can have the time to receive the report from the planning board, review it, and then make a decision as to how the council wants to proceed.
So if everybody just, it's to refresh everyone's memory, this was the television or LCD monitors, whatever they are, monitors that are in the stores as displays, and Little Sky Boutique has theirs as oriented as portrait, and they're just having clothing kind of displayed on that monitor. And those, again, are violations that get issued. So there was a lot of confusion over what exactly we were looking to fix in that. And all we're trying to fix is that piece, but it became a little bit difficult and cumbersome. So for that reason, it fell off of our radar a little bit. So I think December 31st is the best bet, and this way maybe we can sit again with Bridgette, Ramon, and just work through the details of that, and that would kind of clear up that language that we need to fix in it. Okay, so December 31st is good.
Everyone's okay with that? Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay, the next item is the authorization to sign seasonal contracts and agreements for the Recreation Department. Every year, especially during the summer months, the Recreation Department hires and does agreements with various places. This includes entertainment venues for the day camp, camp supplies, tent rentals. They have a festival day, and they do things like the bouncy houses and things like that. So right now, as with all agreements, it's the village policy for us to do a resolution, and then for the manager or the mayor or the village clerk to attest to the agreement. In order to expedite the process, especially for the summer months, Mr. Rooney, our CFO, is requesting that Nancy Bigos, the Director of Parks and Recreation, have the authority to be able to execute the vendor agreements of $5,000 or less without a resolution. Anything over that dollar amount would come to the council, and then the authorization would come again for the mayor, manager, and village clerk to sign the agreements. It would certainly make things go more quickly and would allow them to order the things they need to for their summer activities.
Any questions on that?
Yeah, I just have a quick question.
Sure.
Can we put a dollar amount on there, like not to exceed?
It's 5,000.
No, I'm saying in the aggregate, so she can't sign 10 $5,000 agreements without, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we could do the aggregate. Let me find out how much they usually spend total, and then
put a cap on it.
Go from there. Okay. Any other comments? Okay. The next one is a historic preservation grant application for the James Rose Center. For those of you who don't know, the James Rose Center is a 501c3 not-for-profit educational foundation. They're headquartered at the Historic Register listed former home of landscape architect James Rose, who was a pioneer of American environment design. It's located on East Ridgewood Avenue, kind of catty corner across from the high school field. They are seeking a grant from the Bergen County Open Space Trust Fund to support their ongoing efforts to repair and improve this important site. In order to do so, this is similar to our community development block grants, where they need the village council to say that they acknowledge that they're applying to Bergen County Open Space. So it doesn't obligate any funds of the village. It merely allows them to apply for this grant. So.
Any questions?
Okay. Okay, the next one under operations is rejection of bids for school bus transportation services. They received bids on April 24th. This was for day camp transportation. It was discovered in the bids and bid documents that there was no provision for transporting disabled and disabled summer campers in the bid documents, and therefore they are recommending that the bids be rejected and the reference work be rebid with an inclusion for transporting handicapped or disabled summer campers as well. So.
Any questions, anything on that?
Okay. So for the manager's report, I just wanted to thank everyone for last week's storm. This includes parks, streets, police, fire, EMS, OEM, and everyone who was out there. That brief, intense storm, a lot of limbs came down, some trees came down. Again, a lot of residents were without power, and I want to thank PSE&G. They worked swiftly this time. It was kind of concentrated in areas of Ridgewood and not everywhere, but I really appreciate everyone coming together as a team and getting it cleaned up as quickly as possible. I'm very pleased to announce that public Wi-Fi is now available at Village Hall, the stable, and at Graydon Pool. It's a very simple process to register with your name, an email, a zip code, and then once you're registered, you have a username and password, and then you can use that same username and password on all of your electronic devices. So if you had a phone and then an iPad or a computer, you can do it all on the same username and password. I'd like to thank Dylan Hanson, IT Director, for getting this up and running in time for our busy summer recreation season. Given the frequency of storms, if you do lose power, please call PSE&G. Their number is 1-800-436-7734. And if you continue to be without power and it looks like your neighbors or the next street over does have power, call PSE&G again. Because there are times when they, have fixed the power grid, or so they think, and you may be the only one out for some reason, and you may be on a different grid. So they are very insistent that you continue to call, not constantly, but if you've given it time and then you're seeing power coming on and you don't have power, you should certainly contact them again. You may also download the PSE&G app on your electronic device to get updates of areas without power, and all of this information can be found on PSE&G's website, which is pseg.com. On May 28th, there will be a Memorial Day service at 11 a.m. in Memorial Park at Venice Square, which is sponsored by the Veterans of Foreign War. Graydon Pool will open for the season on June 2nd, and will be open from 10 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. on that day. The Recreation Newsletter has a family coupon for up to $40 off registration for Ridgewood residents, and that expires on July 15th. Proof of residency will be required. Registration can be done online at ridgewoodnj.net/communitypass or at the badge office during regular pool hours. Summer day camp registration for Ridgewood children entering grades 1 through 6 is now open. This popular day camp usually has a waiting list, so please sign up as soon as possible. Again, registration is through Community Pass on the village website. On June 1st, Art in the Park will be held at Memorial Park at Van Ness Square. This is sponsored by the Ridgewood Guild. The Ridgewood Guild's annual Music in the Night also begins on June 1st. This provides musical entertainment throughout the Central Business District on Friday nights through August 31st. On June 5th, the primary election will be held. Polls are open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. The last day for the county to receive a request for a mail-in ballot is May 29th. Voters may vote in person at the county clerk's office in Hackensack up until 3 p.m. on June 4th. The 60th Annual Cashel Memorial Shell performances will begin on Thursday, June 7th at 8:30 p.m. This program brings free performances every Tuesday and Thursday night through August 9th. On Thursday, June 14th, there will be a 60th anniversary celebration for the Cashel Memorial Shell with a performance by the Ridgewood Chorale, which was the group which performed at the first performance at the Cashel Shell in June of 1958, where there were 3,500 people in attendance. All village offices will be closed on May 28th in observance of Memorial Day, and there will be no garbage or recycling pickup on that day, and the recycling center will also be closed.
Great. Moving on to council reports. Councilman Voigt.
I have nothing to report. I understand there was a board of trustees meeting at the library last night. Did you attend?
I did.
Okay,
I did.
so if you could report, that would be
Okay,
great. Yeah,
perfect.
Thank you, and that's it.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. REAC and the Green Team met on the 15th. There was discussions about the wrap-up of Earth Day and the Daffodil Festival, and believe it or not, we've already started very preliminary discussions about next year's event, so there will be much more to come on that as time moves on. Also, June 2nd in the park will be a gun violence awareness program. It'll involve the Mothers Demand Action, and it'll be from 10 to 11:30 a.m. right near the front of Van Ness Square Memorial Park, and there will be some speakers and some educational material about responsible gun ownership and safety and education. So I would encourage everyone to attend, and that's all I have to report.
Great, thank you. Councilman Walsh.
I just have Ridgewood Arts Council, so I wanted to thank everybody that attended the film festival. Scott Rosenfeld came for Ridgewood Arts Council. It was wonderful. He's really an interesting fella, and I think everybody really enjoyed his presentation. I also want to thank Dana Glazer, who's a member of the Arts Council, who invited him and basically put most of it together for us. It was wonderful, and that's been it.
Okay, Councilman.
The Chamber of Commerce will have its 91st annual installation, membership, networking, and recognition dinner. That will take place on June 12th at 6 p.m. At Park West Loft. And the other than that is, just the work on the replacement of the turf at Maple Field has begun, is underway. The old turf was removed 2 weeks ago, and they've already started to install the new product, and it looks great. It's probably a little bit more than halfway done by now. Just a reminder, this is a new generation of turf products, so it's new interwoven blades, and once the turf is laid down and they put the infill in, it will look even better because it will kind of spruce up those blades, so it'll look very plush. But it was interesting to go just walk the perimeter and see what the progress has been so far. Been impressive. And that's it.
That's exciting. Okay. So the first thing I have is there were a couple of meetings, telephone conference calls, and meetings with some mayors. There was discussion about the tax deduction, the charitable contributions as a deduction, and how that would be set up. So we expect that our village attorney will work through some details on that and give I don't know if you're prepared to do that tonight.
But we're going to talk about it on June 6th.
Okay, fine.
Mr. Rooney is not in
Okay,
this week,
good.
so we will talk about it then. And just so you know, we're basically waiting for the state. They're going through the rulemaking process at the current time.
Right.
So they need to give us the way to be able to do this. And it's still questionable as to whether or not IRS will accept this, but certainly, we'll follow what the state does.
Right. So just tune in on June 6th, there'll be a conversation about that, and we'll be able to report a little bit more in detail. Library Board of Trustees did have a meeting last night, and they unveiled their renovation project, which is a very ambitious plan, and it's broken into two parts, the main library and then the auditorium. The main library is to have a sweeping staircase in the center that is kind of like the focal point coming into the library, and with a more flexible layout plan to allow or to accommodate different types of activities and private events as well. Just that one piece is about $5 million, and if the auditorium is squared off, that adds about another $1.5 million to the project, and that does not include the landscaping on the exterior, which would be impacted by the squaring off of the back of the auditorium. They would require this council to bond, and they would be seeking some grant money through the state of New Jersey, which has just made some arrangements to have funding available, some funding. I don't know how much that will be. It's a matching grant. So they would have to have their funding in place, obviously, to get those matching grants. And I guess they'll be going public with their plan, and they anticipate that as reported in the past, the library will be closed anywhere from 10 to 14 months, and we'll know a little bit more detail depending on the extent of the work. If they desire to do both parts of the project, obviously it makes sense to do them both together rather than tear up and do construction once and then go through that same effort again. So they anticipate that if they're doing both parts of that, the bigger job, the full library and the auditorium, that they would want to do it together. And so that puts that probably a much bigger price tag on it. Okay, and again, that's not including landscape. And also, we met last week with Jill Feeney to make plans for the 5th annual Michael Feeney's Best Day Ever, which is scheduled for June 9th at 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Anyone interested in participating can register at Community Pass. And this year's activities will include, as always, the Color Run at 10 a.m., zip line, carnival games, inflatables, band fest, food and drink, face painting, DJ, and more. Tickets in advance, $20 a person, $50 for the family. At the gate, $25 per person, $75 per family. And I think one of the big inflatable, it would be the Wrecking Ball, which is for some older kids. It's a much older programming. So there'll be a range of ages that will be accommodated. And again, that is June 9th, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And I think there are some interesting individuals that will be in the dunk tank this go around. So that's it for me. And with that, we'll go back to public comment, not to exceed 5 minutes per person.
Rorick, Halaby 374 Evergreen Place. For the last 2 years, we've been complaining about the quality of the sound in this building, and people nod their heads. Nothing happens. Get it done. I tried very hard to listen, and I know the mayor, you tend to mumble and talk sideways, so half what you said I couldn't hear. Something has got to be done to improve the quality of the sound here. And the idea of going back in 6 months or a year to talk about the same thing over and over again is silly. I have no idea what it would cost. We're talking about $1 million here, $1 million there. I think for 50 or 100,000 you can do a damn good job, and that's really, really critical, if you will. So this is one. Secondly, as far as the garage, last time when the firm came here, I went to one of the people and I said, I need to ask some questions about the finances. And the guy said, oh, I can't talk to you. You have to submit your questions in writing to the village, which is quite different from the way Paul Aronson did it when he had people all over talking, asking all the questions there is. Now, I assume on the 11th, people will be allowed to speak openly, and that the construction company or engineering company will be open to really discuss things openly. Now, I'm also very concerned about the economics of the garage, and I really, at some point, there was some talk about hiring some kind of a firm that would analyze the economics. I don't think I heard Heather mention that. I may have misheard her. Now, in the last 2 years, since the garages was turned down, I was talking to a friend of mine in the construction business, and he said how construction costs are up as much as 30%. Rates are up. We have a smaller garage with smaller space. So the economics is going to be a tough row to hoe. And I don't have the comfort that the work is being done, that we're going to have someone independent who's responsible, who would look after our interests. I don't think, in all due regards to the members of the council, none of you have the background to be able to really look at the economics and to analyze it carefully. So the thing, now I remember also in the last debate we had about the garage, also people kept on, you know, the Paul Aronson enemies were saying, you say 12 million, it's going to come in at 15, 18 million, you know, and all this stuff. I don't hear that anymore because now the people are, you know, working with the mayor. But I feel very, very uncomfortable about the economics because I need someone who's independent, who can really look at the economics and tell us exactly what the thing is all about. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Well,
Denise Lima, 319 East Glen Ave. On tonight you talked about the purple and orange ribbons for the cancer. Do we know what the donation is going to when they're raising money? Is it a specific cancer society? Is it leukemia, ovarian? Do we know?
It said it was the American Cancer Society and Relay for Life.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Couldn't hear either. The grant for the James Rose Center, is that on our master plan as a historic building?
I'm sure it is.
It is, okay. So when we agree to give the grant, or for them to pursue grant money, is it hurting any of our future grant monies that we might need from the county, or doesn't have any impact?
You know what, actually Denise is public comment, so just...
Okay, sorry. That was my question or concern about that. A few things on preservation and keeping up the community. I noticed at the Habernickel farm that the barn, which is supposed to be maintained by the town, is in disarray and falling apart. So before it gets demolished, it would be great if somebody can take a look and repair the barn before we have to tear it down. Also, the Vanderbilt house, which is at 249 Prospect, which is at the corner of Maple, is really falling apart. They are not keeping up. I don't know whether we own it. There's an owner there. Are we citing them for keeping up the property? But again, I'm thinking that down the road, this is going to be demolished and we're not going to be able to save it. The Zabriskie Shudler House, I don't see on any agendas. Still looking for a date for the replacement of the roof. What is the use of the house going to be? I don't know what the final recommendations are, and what is the final designation of the land. We haven't seen on the agenda a very long time the town garage and the contamination and what the plans are for cleaning that up. And I know we don't own the duck pond and that it's a county park, but everybody calls it the Ridgewood Duck Pond across from the T&W ice cream place, right? It's kind of what we've known it as. It's been in a disarray for several years. I'm seeking your help to influence the county, like you do really well with PSE&G and the roads, but reaching out to the county to see what are they doing with the duck pond, because it's really getting terrible. And it's been a few months since we talked about Graydon and the tree, and or did we preserve the tree? What are we doing with it? What are we making out of it? And what are we replanting? Something else we haven't seen is paving of the rest of the lots in the downtown parking area, so that has not been on the agenda, and we look forward to understanding when that's going to get done. My one comment about the parking garage is, in looking at the Walker report and listening to Epic, I believe they said, and a few of them said, the useful life is somewhere between 30, 40 years, depending on how well you keep up the maintenance. So what happens at the end of 30, 40 years? Does it get demolished? And are those fees in the 10 million, or is somebody else going to foot that bill in 30 years and the residents, down the road? Where is those costs to demolish and replace that garage? Is that future, or is that in these economics? And I just didn't see it, so I just thought I would call that out. And the last thing on the May 2nd meeting was, besides Tyco and bidding that out, their service level pledge for lost dogs. They don't call back anybody. They don't even text. People are hysterical. We've had to form our own network of people, Paramus, Hohokus, Glen Rock, and Fairlawn. And there's a network of us that go lost dog in one of the towns, and we all post into 16 different pages and also get in contact with our local police. But Tyco should be doing more for the 31,000. And I'm hoping this is an error, but I think it said for the senior center for 12 folding tables, the cost was $7,800. I can help you go to Bed Bath & Beyond or Staples, will get it cheaper. Thank you.
I'm just gonna reply to Denise real quick, because we were just, Councilman Hache and I were just looking at this. The Wild Duck Pond renovation, Saddle River County Park, County of Bergen, $1,350,000. The public hearing is Thursday, June 14th in Hackensack. So it's on there.
It's actually going to be 2.3 million. There's two sets of funding, but the total expense for the project is going to be about $2.3 million. They had to redo all the engineering work they had to basically redo what was done a few years ago because the aquifers are running so low. They were trying to use a gravity-based system to get the water into the pond. The pipe is here, the water level is here, it's not getting anywhere. So they're going to do some pumps, and they're also going to spend a lot of money on just improving the landscaping a little bit, just to make the place look a little bit nicer. Also, the lining for the pond has to be redone. It's leaking. Yeah.
And just real quick, the historic house, Van Buren House at the corner Prospect and Maple. So that was actually sold as a foreclosure. It was at an auction. It's in private hands. It's been before HPC, and there were some complications with it, but it is on both the state and national registry, so we're committed to at least doing the best we can to preserve it, but you're right, it's a likelihood that it might be demolished, raised. Okay.
Good evening, Boyd Loving, 342 South Irving Street. In case you missed it, the Star-Ledger's website and the Records website reported earlier today that the IRS is issuing new rules, and the IRS believes that what New Jersey is trying to do is nothing more than an attempt to circumvent the tax law, and the IRS has basically said that they're not going to have any part of that whatsoever. The reason I mention that tonight is not only because the mayor talked a little bit about what New Jersey is trying to do to alleviate it, but we have in Ridgewood an average property tax of $17,000. The cap now is 10, and tonight we've talked about a $10 million bond for the garage and perhaps a $6 million bond for the library. So we really have to think now, since property taxes are no longer completely deductible, do we want to move forward with these kind of major projects? I am particularly concerned about the garage because there's been discussion that we're going to try to build this garage and not have any impact on the tax rate in the village. We don't want the property taxes to go up as a result of it. We've also mentioned that any increase in parking rates and any increase in parking times amounts to nothing more than an increase in tax. So I'm still somewhat perplexed about how we plan to move forward and spend $10 million if we haven't figured out how we're going to pay for this without increasing parking rates and increasing the property tax. So I'm very much looking forward to the discussions that the manager talked about coming up about this, although I'm somewhat concerned because there doesn't appear to be any date that is completely dedicated to talking about the finances. Again, this whole business about spending $10 million for this and $6 million for that, when we now are faced with a situation where it looks like the IRS is going to say, absolutely, positively, no way are you going to circumvent the new law, it's troubling to me that we're proceeding full speed ahead. With respect to the library, I'm absolutely mortified that they plan to close for between 10 and 14 months. I don't think you should allow them to do that. If I was sitting on the council, I'd say no way to any bond unless you figure out how you're going to keep that building open and continue to serve patrons through your renovation. Closing for 10 to 14 months is totally unacceptable. You can see anytime you look at the lot here how busy that building is. That's like saying, I'm going to close Village Hall for between 10 to 14 months and we're not going to provide any services. You're going to have to go someplace else for your services. I wouldn't let them do it, but then again, I'm not sitting where you are, but I encourage you not to let them do it. My final comment, and I hope this was not done on purpose because I know you're a very transparent council, but there's an item on the closed session agenda that is somewhat unclear because there are acronyms used that the public is not aware of what the acronyms are. So I would appreciate an English explanation of what WPCF-NSU is, so the public has some idea of what is being discussed in closed session. Thank you.
Mr. Loving, that is the Water Pollution Control Facility.
And NSU is the biogas project.
Yes.
NSU, the biogas project. Okay.
Anyone else? Okay. With that, I'll take a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Be it resolved by the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood that the Village Council meet in closed session on May 23rd, 2018 at 7:30 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter on the agenda can be reached, and that said closed session be held in the caucus room of the Ridgewood Village Hall, 131 North Maple Avenue, Ridgewood, New Jersey. Be it further resolved that the matters to be discussed in closed session are limited to personnel matters to include boards and committees, professional appointments, extension matters to include Water Pollution Control Facility, NSU, proposed settlement, and Ridgewood water lawsuit. These matters are allowable under NJSA 10:4-12 at sec. Be it further resolved that the minutes of this meeting shall be made available to the general public when such matters have been deemed completed by resolution of the Village Council. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Thank you.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?